This is what you wanted, isn't it? Sign it.
You never once asked me for the truth, David.
You could have simply told me everything back then.
Some truths were never only mine alone to tell.
I should have asked you before I believed them.
Then ask me now, David. I am still here.
The divorce papers are already signed. David Cho does not look at his wife. He looks at the clock on the office wall, as if counting the seconds until this room stops feeling like a courtroom. Amara Whitfield stands across from him, holding a small silver bracelet in her palm, the one he gave her on their wedding day. She does not cry. She does not argue. She simply nods and walks out the door, her heels echoing down a marble hallway that once felt like home. Nobody in that office knows the truth behind the folder that ended their marriage, not even David. 3 months from this moment, a hospital monitor will beep in an empty room, and a 7-year-old boy will climb onto a hospital bed and refuse to let go of her hand, no matter who tells him to leave. Before we go further, if you believe love should never be silenced by lies, hit subscribe right now and type in the comments where you are watching from tonight. I want to see how far this story travels, because what happens to Amara in the next few minutes will break your heart before it heals it. 3 months earlier, Amara Whitfield was the head pediatric nurse at Grace Memorial Hospital in Charleston. She was also David Cho's wife, and the only mother 7-year-old Micah had ever truly known. David's first wife died when Micah was 2. Amara stepped into that emptiness with quiet devotion. She braided ribbons onto Micah's stuffed bear when he was scared of thunderstorms. She sat beside his bed every time he had a fever. Then one evening, David's assistant placed a folder on his desk. Bank transfers, thousands of dollars moving from Amara's account to an unknown recipient every single month. Beside the transfers, a photograph. Amara, laughing, standing close to a man outside a downtown office building. David did not ask her to explain. He only asked his lawyer to prepare the papers. What David did not know was simple. The man in the photograph was Marcus Webb, a hospital accountant, and the money was not for a secret life. It was tied to a promise Amara made years ago in a quiet hospital room to a dying woman she never spoke of again. Amara could have explained everything in one sentence. She chose silence instead, because the truth was not hers alone to tell. Some promises are heavier than pride. Some silences cost everything. After the divorce, David's mother, Helena Cho, made her position clear. Amara was no longer welcome at family dinners, no longer welcome to pick Micah up from school, no longer welcome in the only life she had built for 3 years. But Micah did not understand adult rules. Every Thursday afternoon, he asked his nanny to drive past Grace Memorial Hospital just to see if he could spot Amara's car in the parking lot. He kept a folded paper in his backpack, a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. He had drawn it the week before the divorce. He never showed it to his father. He was afraid David would take it away, the same way he had taken Amara away. 4 weeks after the divorce, David saw Amara for the first time at a hospital charity gala he was forced to attend as a donor. She stood near the entrance in a simple navy dress, the same silver bracelet on her wrist. "You could have just asked me," Amara said quietly when he approached her. "I did ask. You said nothing." "Some things are not mine to explain, David." "Then whose are they?" His voice was sharp, controlled, but his eyes were not. For 1 second she saw the man who used to hold her hand during Micah's fevers. Then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone under the chandelier light, the same way he had left her standing in his office 3 months earlier. If you have ever been judged before anyone gave you the chance to explain, comment, "I understand," right now. Amara is about to face something far bigger than a broken marriage, and what happens next will change how you see every person you thought you already understood. Stay with me, because the truth is closer than David realizes. 2 months later, a fire broke out in the East Wing of Grace Memorial Hospital during a night shift. Alarms tore through the hallways. Smoke rolled low across the tile floor of the NICU. Amara ran back into the smoke, not once, but twice, to carry 2 newborns out of their incubators before the sprinklers finally caught. She saved both infants, wrapping them in her own coat to shield their small lungs from the smoke. But a support beam gave way as she reached the doorway in her second trip, and it struck her shoulder and head, throwing her against the wall. She was rushed into her own hospital as a patient, unconscious, her name suddenly appearing on the very emergency board she used to manage every night for 3 years. A nurse called the only emergency contact still listed in the old hospital file, David Cho. He almost deleted the message. Then he saw the second name attached to the alert, Micah Cho, listed as her emergency contact too. She had never removed him, not even after the divorce. David arrived at the hospital within 20 minutes, still in his office clothes, but Micah arrived faster. His nanny could not stop him. He climbed out of the car the moment it slowed near the entrance and ran through the sliding doors, past security, past the front desk, straight to the room number a nurse whispered to him. He climbed on to the edge of Amara's hospital bed and refused to move, not for his father, not for hospital staff, not even for Helena Cho, who arrived an hour later demanding he return home immediately. "She is my mom," Micah said, holding her hand tightly. "I am not leaving her alone again." David stood in the doorway and watched his son refuse to abandon the woman he himself had walked away from. For the first time since the divorce, he allowed himself to remember every small thing he had erased from memory. The way Amara sang softly during Micah's fevers, the way she never once raised her voice in 3 years of marriage, even when he worked past midnight and forgot to call. He sat down in the chair beside the bed, quietly, and did not leave that night. When a nurse asked if he needed anything, he only asked one question. What was Amara really doing with that money? The nurse did not know, but hospital administrator Denise Carter did. The next morning, David found her in the finance office and asked to see the hospital's donation records for the past 2 years. Denise hesitated. "Amara asked me never to show anyone this. She's unconscious in a hospital bed, Denise. I think it's time," David said. What Denise pulled up stopped him cold. Monthly transfers, all routed through hospital accountant Marcus Webb, all paying down medical debt for one family, the Reyes family, the maiden name of David's first wife, Micah's biological mother. Amara had been quietly paying off her medical bills for 3 years, a promise made the week Elena Cho died, when Amara was only a nursing student assigned to her final hospital room. If you did not see that coming, comment "I'm shaking" right now and hit that subscribe button before the biggest twist of this story arrives in the next 60 seconds, because the person who framed Amara is still out there and she is not finished yet. While David absorbed the truth, Helena Cho arrived at the hospital in a fury, not for Micah but for Vivian Park, David's former fiancée and the company's finance vice president. Denise had one more file, security footage from the archive room, time-stamped the week before the divorce. Vivian, alone, printing a folder labeled A. Whitfield Transfers, and then meeting privately with a photographer outside Marcus Webb's office. Vivian had staged the photograph. She knew exactly what the money was for, because she had approved Amara's donation paperwork herself 2 years ago as a company formality. She destroyed a real family to reclaim a man who never truly chose her. Helena's fury paled when David showed her the footage. "You told me you were protecting our family," David said quietly to his mother. "You almost destroyed it." Vivian Park was escorted out of Empire City Horizon Group's headquarters 2 days later, her executive badge deactivated before she reached the elevator. The forged documents were surrendered to hospital legal counsel, and the fabricated photograph was traced back to a freelance photographer she had paid in cash. Helena Cho, humbled for the first time in years, sat beside her grandson's empty chair in the hospital hallway and finally admitted her own role, pressuring David towards the divorce without ever asking Amara a single question. David did not raise his voice at his mother. He simply said, "Family means asking first, not accusing first," and walked back into Amara's room, where Micah had fallen asleep holding her hand and the folded family drawing from his backpack. When Amara finally opened her eyes 3 days later, the first face she saw was David's, unshaven, exhausted, holding the same silver bracelet she had left behind in his office. "You should have asked me," she whispered. "I know," David said. "I'm asking now. Tell me everything." So she did, about Elena's final promise, about Marcus Webb's paperwork, about every silent sacrifice she made to protect a family that was never fully hers by blood, but always hers by love. David did not offer a rushed apology. He offered something slower and truer, sitting beside her bed every single day, bringing Micah after school so he could read her homework out loud until she was strong enough to come home, this time to stay. Micah's crayon drawing was framed and hung on the living room wall, no longer folded and hidden in a backpack, but finally allowed to be seen, the way their family always deserved to be. Some people will judge you before they ever ask you the truth.